morning, afternoon, and evening everyone. Nick here, and welcome to or welcome back to the channel. Animalities, a spin-off finisher introduced in Mortal Kombat 3, finally made their return nearly 30 years later in Mortal Kombat 1's latest expansion. These admittedly goofy finishers are honestly loads better back when they were introduced in 1995. For one, the technology has gotten loads better, we have more cinematic finishers than previous titles, and the level of detail in these new Animalities are so friggin' good. Case in point, ranking these was an absolute challenge. All I'm getting at is this video was a lot harder to rank, but I'll be going based on how well it fits the character, what unique way the animal or mythical creature finishes you off, and just how fun or impactful it is. Also, I want to get this out of the way. I do not think any of these Animalities are bad at all. If I have to be honest, there's probably one I would give a 5 out of 10, but the rest are either very well, but they just lack one element that just makes me place it low. So just because one is ranked low doesn't mean it's bad. I think all of these are really good. It just doesn't scratch that itch for me. If there's one that I rank low, I'll be sure to say something positive about it. Also, similar to all MK1 finishers ranked, since all of these are photorealistic looking animals, I'll have to do plenty of blurring and editing to not get this video age restricted. Since there are 32 characters, we'll quickly go through a few of these entries just to make this video a bit shorter. And with that out of the way, let's channel the beast within, and let's be like one of those Animorph books from elementary school as we rank all 32 Animalities in Mortal Kombat 1. Kicking things off at number 32 with the most disappointing Animality, this going to Shang Tsung turning into a cobra. Now I do get the reference that this is referring back to MK3, UMK3 and Trilogy, where Shang Tsung turned into a cobra and ate them. However, they change it up a little bit. I like this setup where he like slithers up to him, wraps around him, and I do like the attention to detail where he constricts them and you see their face change to purple, like all the blood rushing to their face. But when he bites their head and then twists it, I think that's just a very disappointing way to end it. I was expecting him to like kind of eat them whole. I love this setup, what it was going for, but in execution and how it wrapped up, I think is what disappointed me the most. I was really expecting this to go in a different way, and what we got instead just wasn't as satisfying. For that, this is what makes Shang Tsung's Animality rank the lowest of all of the Animalities so far. Charging in head first at number 31 is Reiko turning into a ram. Now, I do think that this is pretty fitting that he is a character who very much has a bunch of charging command attacks to use against the opponent, and I thought the ram was quite fitting. I do think what it does though is only okay. Sure, I think it's funny where he hits them in the gut and they fall to their knees and then runs at them and splits them in half. I do like the shot where the head shoots behind them and you see like it splits their body in half, but it's fine. It doesn't do anything super crazy or special. It's just someone getting rammed and then getting that came out sounding very awful. They just get hit by the ram's horns and they get split in half. It's fine. It's an MK staple where someone gets split in half, and that's it. Wish it had a little bit more fun when it came to like hitting them in the head, maybe what they did with Shao Kahn's fatality in MK11 where like you see the head pop out their back or something like that. I just wish it was a little more creative. But number 31 goes to Reiko's Animality. Number 30, we're taking a look at Tanya turning into a giraffe. Definitely something I wasn't expecting, but I do appreciate the creativity here. I do like how the giraffe grabs them by the shoulder and then slams them around like they were a puny god in New York City. And I do like how with each slam you see a body part does fall off, but unfortunately I think it doesn't really have that much of a satisfying end towards it. She just picks them up and then they just kind of hang there and you see like the arm just drop at the very end. Like I wish there was something like maybe like a giraffe stomp at the end to kind of close it out. Overall, I do appreciate the creativity of just having a giraffe with a long neck, slam them around and all that. It's pretty entertaining and fun. I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10. I think it's a fun one. Little bit of a hot take incoming, but number 29 is going to go to the Titan of Chaos realm, this being Havoc. This sees him turn into a weird, messed up looking hyena, tackles them to the ground and mauls them. And my only issue with this one is that it doesn't do anything crazy or fantastical. It's just, it looks like someone's just being mauled by an animal as it goes for their gut and tries actually eating them and hurting them. So for this one, it just seems like a little too realistic for me, which is why I'm having a hard time viewing it, which is why I have to blur it because I don't want YouTube to think it's an actual mauling. I wish it just did like a more fantastical approach. We already have like the fantastical hyena with its face looking like Havoc's jaw, so why couldn't they have stepped it up and made it a little bit more freaky in that regard? I don't know, but overall, I think it's fine at what it's trying to execute, being a creepy mauling, but I just wish that it wasn't too realistic, if you know what I'm saying. Flying in at number 28, and we're going to be looking at Natara's animality, where she turns into the chicken of the cave, a bat. She flies in and swoops the opponent, and I do like how it actually changes the setting and does like a camera cut to reveal that the opponent's upside down, wrapped inside of the bat, as she goes and starts chewing at their head, and then just pops it off like a cork. I do think it's a fun, unique one. I do like how it mixes it up a little bit by having like that camera switch, having fun with the like camera angles and shots like that. Very fitting to have a bat, have Natara turn into a bat. I do think that's the most fun part about this one. It's just overall a good one. I don't really have any complaints with it. It's just solid, simple, gets right to the point. Number 27, and we're looking at one of our first DLC characters from Chaos Reigns, this being Cyrex, turning into one of my biggest fears, a giant hornet. And this one's already creepy enough if you hate insects with stingers, so having this giant hornet fly up to you, stab the opponent in the chest is already bad enough, but as you see, it's just filling it with a bunch of poison to the point where it's bubbling their eyes, and then their head just explodes because it's Mortal Kombat. And just when you think it's over with, I do like the little addition of the stinger, splitting the top half of them in half, and she just does one more quick jump scare flying at the camera. It scared the piss out of me because I hate giant hornets. It got the job done just being scary and creepy. For that, it lands its spot at number 27. Number 26, and we're gonna get a little stabby by looking at Baraka turning into a porcupine. This is honestly one, when I saw it, like a quick snippet of it, I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting how they're gonna handle it. But I do appreciate the end result we got. I do like how the porcupine runs up, throws them up in the air, and starts shooting some needles up at them, and I do like the fun little camera shot where it just shows it from the opponents, like having all the needles fly at them, one hitting them in the head, and then they fall onto the bed of spikes on their back. A nice little tribute to the pit stage fatality from Mortal Kombat Classic. And I do like how it's just kind of hanging up there at the very end when it says Animality with that splash screen. It's pretty fun and definitely subverted my expectations, because I honestly thought just the porcupine one was going to be very weird, but I do like the end result we got, as it's a fun little tribute to MK's history. Entering number 25 by looking at General Shao as he turns into my clan's protector. This bear runs in and recreates that one scene from Leonardo DiCaprio's Revenant, knocking him down and mauling them, thrashing them around a little bit. This part does get a little uncomfortable because it does feel a little too real, and then it gets to the very over-the-top fantastical as he goes to bite their head, and then it just explodes because Mortal Kombat. I do think that this one is very unique, and I do appreciate that even though that it's a very disturbing mauling, I do appreciate that it's over with and it's very snappy, just like that. So overall, I do want to say that this is a very good one, very quick, right to the point. Can't really think of a bear pun. Honestly, I can barely think of any. Sliding in at number 24, and we're looking at my chill dude being Sub-Zero, where he turns into Manny from Ice Age being a mammoth. I do appreciate that this goes for a very different approach with a very unique creature. I do like how the tusk actually throws the opponent in the air and they end up getting impaled on it. And what makes it more unique is that the trunk of the mammoth actually splits them in half, which, even though I wish it did something a little bit more unique instead with it, I do appreciate the flow of it, flowing them up into the air, stabbing, and then splitting them in half, and I do appreciate how it ends with that giant mammoth roar at the end. Very unique, very fitting. I do kind of wish you turned into a polar bear instead, but I do get it. We have 3 bears, or 2 bears already in this, so having a third one would be a bit redundant. Bless you. But overall, I do appreciate them doing something different with a mammoth and making it unique. Speaking of the Lin Kuei and looking more at Chaos Reigns DLC characters, number 23, and we're looking at Sector turning into a rhinoceros. Once again, I do like the fun approach it takes, having the rhino run up, stab them with the horn, and then just dragging them all along the floor like it were Cabal's MK11 fatality. I do like the fun camera angle where you see all of the limbs falling off and all of the dirt, the ground that they're just running through, and how quickly it just wraps up by as soon as they're done running, just comes up and then just stomps down on them. And I do love the splash screen at the end where the rhino just flies at the camera and just starts running towards it and charging. I do like that how this one's just super fun, it's super snappy, and it does have some fun camera angles to it. And my only complaint with it is depending on what stage you're on, it doesn't work the best because some of the arena elements do get in the way and it kind of breaks that immersion a little bit, but who cares? At the end of the day, this one's super fun. Entering in at number 22 by looking into the past as Quan Chi turns into a fossilized dinosaur T-Rex. I do appreciate the fact that it goes with something very different in comparison to the rest of the roster, turning into a giant skeletal T-Rex. Really wish it was Necrosan instead from Primal Rage, but I do like how he takes the opponent, throws him in the air, catches him, and then splits him in half. And then you have just the top half of their body go down the skeletal remains, and it gets caught in like the rib cage. Something unique that no other Animality is able to do. Do appreciate how fun this one is and how wacky it is turning into a skeletal dinosaur. Easily stomping it in at number 22. Number 21, and we're looking at the first full-length Animality revealed to us during the Chaos Reigns announcement trailer. This going to Melina, turning into an orchid mantis. This one's honestly very disturbing, as mantises are known for just pretty much eating their entire prey, and what a better way to adapt that into a Mortal Kombat finisher, but having the arms go into their shoulders so they can't really move, and then starting to eat their head until it gets to about like their abdominal line, reminding you that it's Mortal Kombat. I do like how she just splits them in half with that freeze frame or that slowdown where it's just the two mantis arms holding their body and then rushing towards the camera. It's creepy, it's disturbing, it's freaky, and it's so Melina. Things are getting pretty lit as we enter the top 20 with Liu Kang turning into a phoenix. I do like how this one gets very unique where it's actually a mythical bird that's very fitting to Liu Kang. Do like how he flies up and covers them with the wings and then it starts cooking them alive inside there. And very appropriately, I do love how it leads to an explosion and all that's left are just ashes. And as the freeze frame comes in and just has that Animality splash, I love how the phoenix rises from the ashes. Very fitting to phoenixes. And I do like how this is just a very fitting way to wrap up this entire Animality. It's freaky, it's pretty cool, and majestic, I guess I can say, and easily deserves its spot at 20. From Fire God to Champion of Earthrealm, we're looking at Raiden at number 19. And what a fun callback to the original trilogy by Raiden turning into an electric eel, but now with updated visuals and some creepy new elements to include in there. I do like how the eel just creeps up on them, wraps around them, bites them, and I do like the overhead shot where you see the opponent being electrocuted, and it just perfectly ends with their head just popping. I know that happens in plenty of these Animalities, but I do like how it just retains it from the original. And I do like that creepy little thing at the end where the eel just slithers back at the screen. Creepy, and I do love how they brought back an amazing classic. It's just electrifying at number 19. Things are gonna get a bit bananas as we get to number 18 as Smoke turns into a gorilla, running at them and giving them the whole banana slamma by grabbing them, slamming them down to the ground, dragging them a bit, and then decides to peel them like a banana by grabbing their jaw and then just peeling the front half of their body. It's absolutely gross, very quick, and reminds me how strong gorillas really are. It's truly terrifying, and I guess Smoke wanted to go a little ape shit with this one. Number 17, and we're looking at both Poster Boy and Rain's favorite character in the franchise being Scorpion. Not only is this just a fun callback to Shiva's Animality from MK3 because she turned into a scorpion, it's also a fun callback to MK4 as this is Scorpion's second fatality. Now we get to see him turn into a scorpion and fully utilize it. A giant scorpion that pulls the opponent closer, stabs him multiple times, throws him in the air, and with its pincer arms just splits him in half and charges at the camera. It's so fun. It's a nice full circle moment that Scorpion finally becomes a scorpion. Number 16, and we've got a very fun and unique one coming from Li Mei turning into Ling Xiaoyu's pet, Panda. It looks very sweet and innocent having this cute panda just kind of roll up, grab the opponent's arm, and then yank it off when it gets really disturbing very quickly. But as the opponent falls to the ground after they lost their arm, the panda doesn't even notice it at all and sits on their head as it's just eating their arm. Doesn't even notice that it just crushed the opponent. It's just very fun, it's paced well, and I think the fun aspect is what makes me place it this high on this list here. For that, The panda easily lands in at number 16. Crawling our way into the 15th spot with the Noob Saibot Alligator Animality. As predicted in both my reaction to MK1 Chaos Reign's launch trailer and by True Underdog and best finishers from every Mortal Kombat game, it is exactly what you'd expect it to be. Noob Saibot summons another alligator, then they both bite the opponent's feet and then recreate the Make-A-Wish fatality from MK9 by splitting them in half from groin to their head. I do appreciate the reference a bunch to the amazing fatality, but I'm a little disappointed as it doesn't include that much of like a crocodile spin to it. Like what if they bit the opponent's feet and they do like that death roll that alligators and crocodiles are known for? Just put a little thing that makes it feel more gator-like in there, while still retaining that Noob Saibot finisher. But in the end of the day, an amazing fatality and a wonderful reference to one of the best finishers in the entire series. Not better than the fatality, but definitely an upscaled version in an animality form.
Saibot wins.
Number 14, and we're blindsiding the opponent with this one as we're looking at Kenshi's Wolves Animality. With the power of Sento, Kenshi is actually able to summon a second wolf, to which they both come in and attack the opponent and start mauling him. Both wolves do some nom-nom-nomming for a bit, and then they start splitting the opponent in half as each one bites at their shoulders, pulling them apart. I absolutely love the freeze frame at the end where both wolves just howl up at the sky. It's well paced, and I do love how it makes it feel more Kenshi-like with the Sento edition in there. Like the wolves, I'm just howling with excitement on this one. Flying in at 13 with the American hero, wondering what the fuck a kilometer is with Homelander. This sees him turn into a Peter Griffin and send them up into the air. He quickly swoops down, slices them in half, catches them while they're in mid-air, and actually retains a Homelander aspect and laser blasts them to death. Of all the animalities that we've seen so far, it's definitely the most out of pocket and far out of left field one we've seen, but I can admit it's a pretty fun and cool one overall. This one just takes aim at number 13.
Homelander wins.
Number 12, and we're looking at our sharp hat fellow, Kung Lao, as he turns into a tiger. Sidetrack here, but go Tigers. The Detroit baseball cat actually goes up and approaches the opponent and mauls him, and unlike the other animals where it feels a little too realistic, it does go for a fun, different approach as it rips off the face for some dark humor aspect. And another part that makes it more over the top is where he actually bites into their spine and rips it out with its teeth. What I like about this one is that it's actually paced very nicely. There's that shock value aspect with the face being ripped off, and how it closes off with the spine chilling aspect. Like what Tony the Tiger would say, it's great.
Kung Lao wins.
Number 11, and we're looking at the Guardian of the Hourglass, Gearus. This animality sees him turn into Moto from Madagascar 2, charge at the opponent, and slowly crush them like Sector's compactor with his own jaws. What I love so much about this one is how it's actually framed, showing the camera in the inside of the hippo as it's slowly closing in and crushing the opponent. As it closes on them, I love how there's just that big splash of blood, and then as the hippo roars, the head just rolls out of his mouth. A fun little dark moment there. This is definitely one that Mu Dang would find adorable. we're finally flying into the top 10 by looking at Kitana's hummingbird animality. Fun to see an actual small creature being featured into an animality, this with the hummingbird. I love how this one just opens with a quick poke stab, and then another poke, and then a bunch of lightning stabs where it keeps flying around the opponent rapidly. And the greatest way to wrap this one up is by a solid peck to the head, and then they just open up like a flower pot. That reveal at the end is what makes this one so special for me. And a great way to close it out is that the fountain starts spraying with their blood, and the hummingbird starts drinking from it. It's cute, clever, dark, and oddly fitting to Kitana. Kitana just winged it and had a humming good time with it.
Animalities. Kitana wins.
Swarming our way into number 9 with Ermac. With Ermac being a collection of souls, it only made sense for him to be a collection of insects. Hence, he is a swarm of locusts that eat the opponent alive. It's creepy when they all swarm the opponent and do some weird swirl, lifting them off the ground and slowly eating them until nothing is left, all the way down to the bone. I even love that creepy freeze frame where they start flying at the camera too and start swarming it. Just a creepy way to end this one off. Fun fact, in the Mortal Kombat lore, Zaterran or Outworld meat is actually a great source of protein, and it's also very sustainable, and you can even eat it cold. Locust meat, on the other hand, you have to swarm it up first.
Animalities. Ermac wins.
Alright, before we get into number 8, I do want to give you an arachnophobia warning because this is going to be covering Sindel's spider animality. This sees Sindel turn into a very common fear among people, snatch them and bring them to the ceiling of the arena. At that point, they bite them on the head and lay a bunch of eggs inside their body, which is actually the most uncomfortable and disturbing part of this entire animality. While the opponent is struggling in fear with all of these eggs being put inside them, they get split in half as a bunch of spiders crawl out of their body. If you're looking for a nightmare-inducing finisher, well, here you got it with this one. It's so gross, it's creative, it's just thinking about the spiders crawling in your body. On second thought, let's just move on. Like the finished body, this one just makes my skin crawl.
Sindel wins.
Swimming in at number 7 with Rain the Water Mage turning into Mrs. Puff. One of the first animalities that we saw in the reveal trailer, and it was showcased at Comic-Con 2024. This sees Rain go into the small form, go down their mouth in a very uncomfortable way as they're spitting up blood, and it looks like it's extremely painful. Once inside their body, Rain decides to expand inside them, causing them to explode like it's Mortal Kombat 3. You would think that a pufferfish wouldn't make for a very interesting animality, but they proved you wrong. This is definitely such a cool animality, and I love how they implement a weird explosion for such a weird creature. This one is an absolute blast.
Rain wins.
I don't have a good plant analogy for moving forward, but number 6, and we're looking at Reptile turning into the Venus flytrap. Say what you want about this one. I know many people were very confused on Reptile turning into a plant, but you know what? Whatever. It makes for an awesome animality. It's also a neat little reference to MK2 Reptile, where he uses the tongue lash to rip off their head, but instead of that, pulling them into the flytrap's mouth. I like how each time it chews on the opponent, they're in more fear, and I like how the last one has them reaching for the camera screaming no before they get chomped to bits. It's framed super well, and it's also a great reference to MK2 Reptile. This horror from the little shop definitely deserves its spot at number 6.
Reptile wins.
Now we're getting into the really good stuff, entering the S tier, S meaning shark, with Johnny Cage's Animality. I do like how they have fun with this one by turning it into a film set, having Johnny Cage put on a shark suit, and then it switches to a scene very reminiscent of Jaws, paying tribute to the movie by recreating the image from the poster, coming up and biting the opponent in two. On top of that, I just love the freeze frame at the very end where the shark comes at the top half of their body trying to take it for a bite. As much as I do love this one, I really wish it did pay more tribute to Jaws, maybe like the cold opening where it thrashes them around or something like that. But overall, it really satisfies that itch, has a blast with the animality premise, and I don't know, there's some fin about it that I just love.
Cage to wardrobe. Heavy fight, take one. Action!
Animality. Johnny Cage wins.
We're gonna stay at the deep sea for our next entry, that going to Takeda, where he turns into a kraken. I love how when he does his transforming animation, all you get to see is a single tentacle as it grabs the opponent and pulls him into the hole, leading to some giant deep blue sea somehow. But I do love how this is a callback to MKX with the Cove, as you see a giant kraken that splits the opponent in two and then pulls them into its giant beak, to which he eats the opponent. Now I know what you're thinking. How is this such an awesome animality? Well, for one, it's very referential, and two, yes, they do have beaks. John Oliver taught me that. This squid-based animality is just tenta-cool.
Takeda wins.
Entering the top 3 with our second guest character so far, this being Omni-Man. Unlike Homelander, instead of turning into a mythical creature, he turns into a kaiju from the Invincible series, this being Hail Mary. This one completely subverts your expectations as it's one of the only giant creatures that someone turns into. With the opponent stunned, he crushes them and flattens them into the ground, but they're not dead yet. The creature comes down, bites them, and gets them stuck into their giant buck teeth, and wraps it up by splitting him in half. When I saw this one on social media, I was completely floored. I never would have expected someone to turn into a kaiju, but hey, I'm happy we got it. I guess the opponent wishes they were invincible to make it through this one. Our number 2 spot goes to the demonic yet magical Ashra, with her turning into a Pegasus. Not gonna lie, Pegasus was not on my bingo card as an animality, but I am very happy and satisfied. I do love how she storms right at the opponent and then just teleports away, does a fun little fake out, and then surprises them by having the horn go through the back of their head and then through their forehead. Just when you think it would be over, she throws them to the ground and then breathes some magical rainbow fire on them, and they just burn away into pixie dust. I guess the only real thing that this one is missing is a visit to Candy Mountain or something. It's absolutely absurd and so goofy, but I love it for that reason. Like, if you were gonna tell me that there was a Pegasus or a unicorn as an animality in Mortal Kombat, I thought you would have been lying. Now I am super happy that we got this, and just because of that, along with how absurd it is, how well framed it is, and how much it just fits to the majestical creature, it definitely deserves a spot this high on the list. What can I say? It's just absolutely magical.
Animality. Ashra wins.
Okay, many of you saw this one coming. Even when I announced I was working on this ranking, many of you were sharing that this was your number 1 spot, but spoiler alert, it goes to Peacemaker. Now I know what many of you are thinking. Wait, how can an eagle do all of this by lighting up an opponent and then drop a grenade on them to blow them up? I didn't think bald eagles were capable of doing something like that, and to that I say, you're right. That's because this isn't a bald eagle, it's a American eagle. Both Peacemaker and Eagly just do some double eagle action and take down the opponent by slicing off their legs, lights them up with a rifle like it were Deadshot in Injustice 2, and then Eagly flies in with their grenade, dropping it right in front of them, blowing them up, leaving nothing but their skull behind. Probably the most 10 out of 10 way to finish this is that Peacemaker mounts on top of the skull and Eagly flies behind him with a giant American flag. Not only is this one just framed and shot well based on the accuracy of the bullets, this one just fits Peacemaker perfectly, turning into an eagle and guns, you know, the symbols of America, and goes to town on the opponent in such a unique way. It is just an amazing animality. I really have no complaints with this one, and for that, Peacemaker's animality lands in at number 1.
Peacemaker wins. Flawless victory.
So there you have all 32 animalities ranked from the worst to the best. Of all 32, which one was your favorite, and which one was your least favorite? Please let me know in the comments down below, and let's have a fun discussion down there. Just a friendly reminder that this is just my list, it's not the definitive list, so let's have a fun discussion, let's not argue about it, please. I hope everyone's doing well, and thank you so much for the continuous support over the past few weeks. Honestly, ever since October started, I have been extremely busy training for marathons and a bunch of work-related events. I'm feeling a little burnt out, but don't worry, I love doing content for you all, it means a ton. I really appreciate the support. If you like the video, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and share. It truly means a ton to the channel. If you liked it, let's try to get to 1,000 likes. I work really hard on these videos and spend a lot of time on them, so it would really mean a ton to me at the end of the day. As we're closing out the year, I've got plenty of fun Mortal Kombat content and some fun rankings coming down the line, including a few videos with my partner Rain, and a fun Halloween special coming up. So next time on All Finishers Ranked, we're going to be stepping into the fog and we'll be covering one of my favorite horror video games. So stay tuned for that coming soon. As always, thank you so much for your continuous support. You truly mean a ton. My name is Nick, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Fight!